I buried him 5 years ago. At least I buried the idea of him. His body was never found. And last night, when everything fell apart, I texted the only number I've never been able to delete. I expected silence. Instead, he replied, Mia, first person. Subscribe CTA embedded. I keep his number saved under one name, Gone. Not because I'm dramatic, because that's what he is, what he was. Joon-soo Park died 5 years ago on a rain-soaked street in this city, bleeding out of my arms while I screamed at him to stay. I was 22. He was 25. And by the time the ambulance came, he was already somewhere I couldn't follow. They never found his body. The detective told me that happened sometimes. Gang-related. The city swallows people whole. I was supposed to accept that and move on. So I did. Mostly. I built a small life. A studio apartment with east-facing windows. A job I don't hate. My mama 2 floors below me in the same building because I cannot stomach the thought of her being alone. Not after everything she's survived. Which brings me to tonight. I heard it through the floor first. The crash of something heavy, then her voice cutting short in a way that turned my blood to ice. Kwame, her boyfriend of 8 months. Charming to everyone who doesn't live in this building. A monster to those of us who do. I grabbed my phone and ran for the stairs. By the time I reached her door, I could hear him inside. That low, controlled fury that's somehow worse than screaming. I tried the handle, locked. I banged, nothing. I don't know what made me do it. Panic, maybe. Or the part of me that has never fully accepted that some people just don't answer anymore. I scrolled to Gone and typed with shaking fingers, "He's beating my mama." I don't know who else to call. I hit send before I could think. 3 seconds of silence. Then the 3 dots appeared. Then, address, now. My knees nearly gave out right there in the hallway. Because I knew that rhythm, that economy of words. That particular brand of calm that somehow made everything feel more terrifying, not less. Before we go further, drop a comment. Have you ever held on to someone's number long after they were gone? Let's talk. And if you're new here, subscribe. This story is just getting started. I pressed my back against the wall and stared at my phone like it had grown teeth. 3 words back from a dead man's number. Address now. My fingers typed it before my brain could argue. Some muscle memory deeper than logic. Some part of me that had spent 5 years waiting for exactly this impossible thing. Then I stood there. The sounds from inside Mama's apartment kept coming. Kwame's voice, low and ugly. Something sliding across the floor. Her silence, which was somehow louder than anything else. Then the elevator opened, and the world stopped. He was taller than I remembered. Broader, dressed in all black. Fitted jacket, dark shirt, every detail deliberate. His jaw was sharper. His eyes were the same. That still, dark focus that always made you feel like the only thing in the room. At his collar, just above the top button, the edge of a tattoo I had never seen before. A dragon, its tail curling toward his throat. He walked toward me without hurrying. Without any readable expression, I couldn't speak. My mouth opened and closed like I was trying to remember a language I'd forgotten. He stopped 2 feet away and looked at me the way you look at something you've been carrying in your chest for years and finally sat down. Mia, he said. Just my name. Quiet. Like a door opening after a very long time. My eyes filled before I could stop them. You're dead, I whispered. He didn't flinch. I know, he said. I'll explain everything, but first... His eyes moved to the door. Which apartment? I pointed. He moved. No weapon, no announcement. He simply walked to Mama's door, tried the handle, locked, and knocked twice. Firm, unhurried. Open the door! Not loud. The voice of someone who had never needed volume to be obeyed. Silence inside. Then Kwame's footsteps, heavy, annoyed. The lock clicked. Kwame filled the frame, big and bristling, ready to perform his anger for whoever dared interrupt. He saw Joon-soo. The performance died instantly. I had seen that happen before. Strong men deflating the moment they registered something they couldn't categorize. Joon-soo wasn't threatening him, wasn't posturing. He simply stood there, hands at his sides, watching Kwame with the complete patience of a man who had already written the ending. Step back from her. Kwame stepped back. His body obeyed before his pride could object. Joon-soo entered. I followed on autopilot. Mama was near the kitchen counter, one hand pressed to her jaw, eyes wide. She looked at Joon-soo the way you look at something that doesn't fit any category. Not afraid, just searching. Joon-soo crouched in front of her, didn't touch her, just looked at her. Directly. You're safe. No one will hurt you tonight. Then he stood, turned to Kwame, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You and I, he said quietly, are going to have a conversation. I watched Kwame's throat move as he swallowed. Whatever he'd expected tonight, it was not this. I don't know exactly what Joon-soo said to Kwame. He walked him to the far side of the living room and spoke in a voice too low to carry. I watched Kwame's face cycle through defiance, confusion, and then something I had never seen on him before. Real fear. The quiet kind that settles in the bones and doesn't leave. When Joon-soo stepped back, Kwame picked up his jacket without being told. Didn't look at Mama. Didn't look at me. Walked to the door with the careful steps of a man who understood completely that some exits are permanent. The door clicked shut. A doctor arrived 11 minutes later. Older, silver-haired, no unnecessary questions. He examined Mama's jaw and wrist, spoke quietly, left a number. When she finally drifted to sleep on the couch, Joon-soo and I stepped into the hallway. The light above us flickered. I crossed my arms over my chest because I needed something to hold, and he was not an option. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because the man in front of me had been dead for 5 years and I had grieved him and rebuilt something resembling a life around the hole he left. And now he stood here, solid and breathing. Start talking, I said. He looked at me for a long moment. I know, he said. I've been rehearsing this conversation for 4 years. 4 years. My voice shook. You've been alive for 4 years and said nothing? He didn't look away. I was protecting you. Middle CTA embedded protecting me. I repeated the words like they were foreign. I held you on that street, Joon-soo. I felt you go still. How does that protect anyone? I didn't die, he said quietly. I was close, but my men reached me before the ambulance did. I stared at him. The people who shot me weren't going to stop. They wanted my territory, my contacts, and everyone I cared about. If I survived publicly, if you were seen connected to me, you became leverage. He paused. You and your mother. Something cold moved through me. So you let me think you were dead. I had 48 hours to decide. I chose you over my pride. His jaw tightened. I've regretted the method every single day. I've never regretted the reason. I turned away because I couldn't look at him and hold myself together simultaneously. I cried for 2 years, I said to the wall. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I used to call your number just to hear your voicemail. Do you know that? Silence. I know, he said. I listened to everyone. I spun around. I kept the number active, kept the voicemail box open. His voice was low, fraying at the edges. It was the only way I could still... He stopped, swallowed. It was the only way I had left. The hallway held the weight of everything unsaid. Have you ever loved someone so much you made a sacrifice they might never forgive? Drop it in the comments. And stay with Mia because the worst twist hasn't landed yet. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the hallway floor, not weakness. My legs had simply completed their shift and clocked out. After a moment, Joon-soo sat beside me. Not close, just present. The way he used to sit with me during my worst nights, not trying to fix anything, just refusing to leave. Some things about a person, time cannot edit. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. So he did. 3 months recovering in a private safe house outside the city. The decision to go dark. Then building, slowly, carefully, a new structure, new power. An empire built not just on fear, but on loyalty, earned the hard way. And the name Joon-soo Park? I asked. Retired, he said. Until tonight. I looked at his hands. The same hands I'd held on that rain-soaked street, slick with blood. now still and steady in his lap. You could have contacted me once you were safe, I said. It's not over, he said simply. I turned to look at him. The organization never fully disbanded. They restructured, moved pieces around the board. Something shifted behind his eyes. Including into this neighborhood? A cold understanding began forming at the back of my mind. Joon-soo. Kwame, he said quietly. Didn't find your mother by accident. The floor tilted beneath me. What did you just say? He held my gaze. Didn't soften it. Kwame works for the same network that ordered my death 5 years ago. He wasn't some man your mother met by chance. He was placed, deliberately, in her life. The hallway spun. They were using her to get to me. They suspected I was still alive. They needed a thread. Your mother was the thread. I stood. My hands were shaking. So this entire time, my mama has been living with a man sent to destroy her. Because of your world. My voice broke. And you still said nothing to us? I didn't know about Kwame until 3 weeks ago. But you knew they were still active. You knew there was still danger, and you let us live here exposed while you sat in your empire? I was moving to dismantle them. We almost died tonight, Joon-soo. The words tore out of me, ragged and raw. My mama was on that floor. Do you understand that? She was on the floor because of your enemies. Because of your choices. He stood. His face was controlled, but his eyes were destroyed. I know, he said. Stop saying you know. My voice cracked completely. Knowing is not the same as being here. You chose your mission over us. Again. The same way you chose your empire over telling me you were alive. I walked away from him down the hall. He didn't follow. I sat with Mama until nearly 3 a.m. She slept deeply, tension finally smoothed from her face. I pulled the blanket to her shoulder and watched her breathe, steady, safe, and tried to let that be enough. It wasn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Joon-soo's face when I walked away. That controlled stillness cracking at the edges. A man receiving the consequence he always knew was coming and taking it without argument. He hadn't followed me. But when I finally stepped back into the hallway just after 3, there was an envelope on the floor. Inside, a single index card. Clean handwriting, a new phone number. Below it, one line. The network is finished by morning. I dismantled it before I came tonight. You were never an afterthought. You were the only thought. I turned the card over. On the back, smaller. I have one more thing to tell you. Something I should have said 5 years ago before everything fell apart. If you want to hear it, come to the roof. I'll be there until sunrise. If you don't come, I'll understand. I'll disappear again, for good this time. And you'll never have to carry any of this again. I stood there holding that card. 5 years of grief on one side of the scale. He had answered when I texted a dead man's number. He had come without hesitation. He had dismantled the danger before he even walked through that door. He had been protecting us the entire time. I folded the card and walked toward the stairs. The roof door was propped open with a brick. He stood at the edge, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. The way I imagined he'd looked at everything he'd built, like he owned it and wasn't particularly impressed. He heard me, didn't turn immediately. I walked until I was beside him. The city stretched below us, amber and alive, completely indifferent to 2 people on a rooftop trying to find their way back to each other. What did you want to tell me? I asked. He turned, and for the first time tonight, the mask was completely gone. Just him. Just Joon-soo. Tired and certain, looking at me like I was the only fixed point in a world that had been spinning for 5 years. I never stopped, he said. Loving you. Not one single day. My throat tightened. You broke me, I said. When you died, when you stayed dead. I know. You don't just say that and have it fix things. I know that too. He reached into his jacket and held something out. My old bracelet, the one I'd left on that street, the one I thought was gone forever. Thin gold chain, small charm. I've kept it since the hospital, he said quietly. I couldn't send it back. It was the only piece of you I was allowed to keep. I took it from his hand. Our fingers touched, and I let them stay. This is going to be complicated, I whispered. Everything worth it is, he said. Below us, the city moved on. Above us, the sky was beginning to lighten, the first pale suggestion of morning pulling at the edges of the dark. He didn't reach for me. He waited. I closed the space between us. She texted a dead man's number, and he answered. Drop a comment. Did Mia make the right choice going to that roof? Subscribe to Africa Mafia Stories. We drop new stories every week, and they only get better.